Hey everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be on grocery shopping on a budget. My family of four spends $100 a week on groceries. We live in Northeast Missouri. We buy our groceries in Western Illinois. I will put last week's grocery receipt at the end of this and kind of talk you through it. But right now I'm going to kind of explain my process when I grocery shop. The first thing you're going to do is tidy your fridge, pantry, and freezer. I do this before I even begin my grocery list. Going through your pantry, fridge, and freezer allows you to take a mental inventory of your stock. Like, oh, I forgot I had cream cheese, or when does that sour cream expire? We're almost out of milk. When you're going through it, make sure you're touching everything. Touching everything is a memory technique. It allows you to kind of retain those ingredients in your head better. I also use this time to move around any leftovers. I find doing so gives it a new look and makes it more desirable to family members. Like if I move pizza from the top shelf to the shelf right below, or if I have a container of spaghetti and I turn it a little bit, it's like they think I just put it there or something. Like it looks new and fresh to them. Now that we've gone through everything and we've made a mental note, we can begin working on our grocery list. Now, the order here is really important. The first thing I do is I add my staples. I have a list of my staples in my grocery prep article. I'll link it below. But these are the items that you can't go another week without, like laundry detergent, trash bags, toilet paper, milk. They're going to vary from house to house. My staples might be different than your staples. And when I say staples, I mean staples/necessities. I'm kind of using them as one. Now, I'm not going to add these items if I'm just running low. Like if there's 8 dish detergent pods, I typically run the dishwasher every other day. So the max I would need until next week would be 5. So I'm not going to add them on this grocery pickup. I'll add them to the next week's. Remember, we only have $100 to work with here, so we're not buying in bulk and we're not overstocking. All right, once I've added the staples, I'll move on to my kids' preferences. Now, obviously, this is optional, but sadly, I have really picky eaters, so I need to make sure I've got some variation of their favorites stocked for the week. Some of their favorites would be like yogurt, fruit, bread, peanut butter, frozen pizza, corn dogs, chicken nuggets, chips, crackers and cheese, waffles. I won't stock all of these items. I'll just make sure there's enough of something in that list for the week. Okay, now that I've added the staples and my kids' preferences, I'll move on to meal planning. I'm using the balance of my $100 now at this point. This is where I'm going to use that mental inventory that I took. I should mention that I use the Walmart app for my groceries, so every time I add an item, I've got like a running total to look at. I think that's really helpful. If I'm getting close to my budget, I'll need to get creative with our meals. If I've got some wiggle room, I might try out a new recipe that uses some ingredients I don't typically have on hand. We're eating low calorie, so my main focus when I'm meal planning is a protein and a vegetable. The proteins I typically use are chicken, tilapia, salmon, or pork. I mean, we love red meat, but we just have to be smart with it and use it sparingly. When I'm trying to decide on meals, I'll take the ingredients I have on hand and I'll type those into Google. Some of our favorite meals have come from this method. Okay, now I have one more tip before I go over last week's grocery order, and that is to make sure you're multi-purposing your food. I use this example a lot, but let's say I want to have fish tacos. For that, I need to buy tilapia and tortilla shells. Those aren't things I always have on hand. I won't need all of the fish and shells for that meal, so I can use the tortilla shells for breakfast tacos. And then I'll use the rest of tilapia and maybe I'll like bread it and air fry it and make like fish and chips with it. So now those 2 ingredients that cost me like, $15 will now make double the food. Don't box yourself in with ingredients. Look for ways to multi-purpose them. All right, now let's take a look at last week's grocery budget and I'll kind of walk through what I purchased and why I purchased it. Okay, starting off with bananas, that is a staple for us. We have to have some type of fruit every week. Bananas was my staple. It's always like the cheapest fruit option. Next up, grape tomatoes. So I am obsessed with grape tomatoes, Laughing Cow, garlic and herb cheese, and wheat thins. I eat it like 2 or 3 times a day. So I'll go through like a pint of tomatoes within 2 or 3 days. So that's not typically a staple, but it has been for me lately, especially eating low calorie, because every time I eat it, it's like, I don't know, 120 calories or something. Really small, and it really fills me up. So that was a staple for me. Okay, the next two are also staples for us. My son loves oranges and obviously low calorie. I'm eating lots of salads, so lettuce is a definite must for me. All right, moving on. Both of my kids needed new toothbrushes. Those were like essentials, staples for us. Same with the mouthwash. And then the bags of chips, like obviously buying individual bags of chips is not very budget friendly, right? And typically I would like buy a big bag of chips and then put them into smaller baggies, but I'm just really busy right now. So I went ahead and splurged on this big box. My son, now that he's home for the summertime, and my daughter a little bit too, they just eat me out of the house, and chips are not very healthy. So I find that if I use the individual bags, they can kind of track themselves like, oh, I've already had one of the bags of chips today. Mom says I can't have another one till supper, so they are just more mindful of their calories. And, chips are not healthy, but they're good. So I let them have them, but I limit them. That's why I got those bags of chips. So that would fall under kids' preferences. It's not a staple. It's a kids' preference item. Okay, moving on. Chocolate chips I had a little wiggle room in the budget, so I added them. I saw a recipe on TikTok that I really wanted to make. I absolutely hated it. I'll never make it again, but that's why I bought the chocolate chips. So that was just with leftover money. That's how I bought those. The corn syrup, I kind of put that under kids' preferences. We went to a hotel over the weekend, so it was like a 2-hour drive, and my daughter wanted to have some Tiger Bites for the road, so I needed corn syrup for that. So I called that a kid's preference item for that week. Next, obviously, milk is a staple. And then the Bosco sticks are a kid's preference item. My daughter loves these, and she's been out for a couple weeks, so I got her some of those. All right, next up, coleslaw. That was a meal planning ingredient. Sour cream is a staple. The tortilla shells were a meal planning ingredient, both for fish tacos and then also breakfast tacos. That's funny, they were both in that example I gave. And then that's the Laughing Cow cheese that I told you I'm obsessed with. That was a staple for me. I have a problem, I know, but I love it so much. All right, next up, this next Laughing Cow was not a staple. It was for a meal I wanted to try. It was a snack, actually. I saw somebody combine pepperoni and then put some Laughing Cow in between and like air fried it, and I wanted to try it. And then I got pepperonis for that, and then also a kid's preference because my daughter likes pepperoni a lot. The cornflakes that went with the Tiger Bites, that was a kid's preference item. The rice cakes were for a meal planning idea I wanted to make. That was the thing I didn't like. The last thing I got on my grocery order was trash bags. That was obviously a staple. We had one left when I bought those, so we definitely couldn't go another week without them. And then there's my groceries for the week. As you can see, very little was for meal planning. I already had quite a bit of protein and frozen veggies in the freezer, so adding the toothbrushes, the trash bags, I knew that I was going to be limited on what I could use for meals. But like I said, I knew I had a ton in the freezer to use up anyways. And if you were curious about the meals we are doing this week, they are buffalo chicken quesadillas. So I've got chicken in the freezer. I just bought tortilla shells on this grocery pickup, and then I already have some Laughing Cow pepper jack cheese in the fridge, so I'll use that. Next up, fish tacos. You saw I put a lot of fish taco ingredients in this grocery pickup. Pulled pork, I already have that in the freezer. Taco salad, I already have ground beef in the freezer, and then I got lettuce in this grocery pickup. I have cheese already. And then finally, orange chicken. There's chicken in the freezer. I'll steal some of those oranges that I bought for my son for the week, and I already have panko on hand too. If you have any questions, comment those below. Also, there's one thing I forgot to mention, and that is you got to make sure you're using the right storage containers. You want to make sure you're not using containers that are going to make your food go bad, that you're storing your food properly. For instance, the lettuce, you buy a head of lettuce, get it broke down, wrap it up in paper towels, stick it in a Ziploc bag, and it'll stay good for weeks. If you just leave it as it is, it'll brown really quickly, so just being mindful of how you're storing, what you're storing, keeping it all tidy. Those tips right there really save you a ton of money in groceries. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, comment those down below. If you enjoyed this video, if you took something away from this video, like it. I will link the full article that I used for reference, which is my article that I wrote on my website. I'll link that down below. If you have not already, please subscribe to my channel. I'm trying really hard to get to 10,000. I'm only 200 and some away from that. Thank you guys so much for your support. I will see you obviously next Tuesday because I post every Tuesday, but I'm actually going to start increasing my posting. I haven't fully decided on my day. I'm thinking I'll post on either Thursday, Friday, or Sundays. I'm not sure which. So definitely follow me on Instagram or Facebook and you'll be notified as to my new posting schedule. Thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate you all, and I will see you in my next video.